As we all know, the issue of the national minimum wage was raised by the President in the SONA in 2014 when he asked the Deputy President, together with social partners, to try and address this matter and addressed really the issue of income inequality in our economy and in our country. And following those fairly lengthy deliberations, and a number of members of Parliament kept asking, when are you finalizing this? And we kept saying, you know, it took the Germans 8 years to arrive at a national minimum wage. It took us just over 2 years. And as we all know, the social partners have agreed to the introduction of a national minimum wage and to peg it at 20 Rand per hour, and that this will be implemented with effect from the 1st of May in 2018 at the very least. Now, the agreement was signed by all the social partners except for COSATU. COSATU had been a very active participant in the whole process of negotiation, and in the end they said they have their own reporting processes that they need to abide by, and they requested us that we should give them an opportunity to go and report, but at the same time they said we should go ahead and sign the agreement. When I asked the President of COSATU what this was for, whether it was for consultation or for merely reporting back, he informed me that it was for reporting back. We do hope and trust that they will post their Central Executive Committee, be able to give us an indication of where they stand. The amount of 20 Rand an hour in the end translates on a monthly basis for a 40-hour week to 3,500 Rand. For those who work 45 hours in a week on a monthly basis, it comes to 3,900. The introduction of this wage at this level will, in our view, have a significant impact on the lives of roughly 6.6 million South Africans who currently earn below 3,500. When research was done on this, it indicated to us that the majority of our people are earning well below 4,000 Rand a month, and this is the people who are employed, and you could then say that we have the working poor. Several measures were agreed by the social partners to ensure that the introduction of the national minimum wage does not have negative effect on the viability of businesses as well as employment. Businesses that are unable to afford the payment of this minimum wage will be able to apply for an exemption for up to 12 months at a time. But in doing so, they will have to give reasons why they are not able to do so. And any fragile sectors that are having difficulty in complying with the national minimum wage will be considered for assistance within available means, including through incentives. Now, a National Minimum Wage Commission, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, will be established, and one of their tasks will be to recommend annual adjustments to the level of the minimum wage, and the minimum wage will also be regularly reviewed by this very commission, and in doing so, they will also take into account the impact of the level of the minimum wage on employment, poverty, and inequality, as well as economic conditions at the time. In addition, as it is the practice in the development of new legislation, government itself will conduct on an ongoing basis a socio-economic impact assessment, firstly ahead of the finalization of the national minimum wage bill. The introduction of this minimum wage for people who are going or experiencing income inequality is quite historic. One of the social partners, who is the community representatives, characterize this as a revolutionary development which sets the stage for a far more concerted national effort to defeat poverty. And this came from one of the leaders from the NGO sector who have been involved with us. But clearly they want to get us now on the journey of beginning the process of negotiating social security, a comprehensive social security process. Not only will this wage significantly improve the income of nearly 50% of our working people, but it establishes a foundation for progress towards the realization of a living wage for all. And now a living wage for all clearly is going to be the purview of our trade unions. They will continue the struggle for a and set us on the right path to have a living wage in the end. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Minimum wage. Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The reason we agreed with the social partners that implementation must only be next year was to give the Department of Labor sufficient time to prepare for the implementation of the minimum wage. This is so because we would like to see full compliance. And this period is going to ensure that we reach out to employers and get as many businesses as possible to be aware of how the minimum wage is going to function and to raise their level of compliance. At the same time, the Department of Labor itself is setting up a fairly rigorous and robust process within the department to be able to monitor this. Now, the budgetary impact of it all will be outlined, I'm sure, by the Minister in the coming year when she outlines her departmental budget. We believe that we will be able to set up processes and a fairly robust inspectorate and make sure that there is compliance throughout the economy. Because in the end, the national minimum wage will only really be effective if there is maximum compliance. And we're talking to businesses to make sure that it should not be so much a matter of being policed. It should be a matter of them participating in all this on a voluntary basis, not a voluntary basis, on a compliance-driven basis. Now, the pleasing thing is that they participated fairly actively with us in the negotiation to this. We had the various business organizations, and I'm sure that they will from now on be talking to their members to make sure that indeed they do comply with this minimum wage. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mbata.
Honorable Speaker, I will give the question to the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The question that was posed to the Deputy President of the ANC was that in the minimum wage is going to reduce income poverty. But will agree with me, Deputy President, that the biggest form of poverty that characterizes majority of South Africans, the black majority in particular, is the poverty of landlessness. Yesterday, the ANC voted against expropriation without compensation. They voted against your president's suggestion that there must be expropriation of land without compensation. Now, as part of that presidency of the ANC, you say that there must be expropriation without compensation. Parliament says that it must not happen. What is your view in terms of the expropriation of land without compensation? Should we pursue that as an agenda, as a means to dealing decisively with the landlessness and the poverty of our people as is being dealt with here. I'm asking you this question now because it's urgent.
Thank you, Honorable
and,
Member. Don't
we are only
motivate
going
the
to come
question.
back after 3 months.
Your
Thank you
1
very much.
minute is over. Honorable Deputy President.
There are a number of factors that drive poverty in our country, and one of them is unemployment, and indeed one of them is asset poverty. Asset poverty that also involves the lack of property ownership or land ownership and assets, other assets as well. Now, when it comes to the issue of expropriation without compensation, the matter was actively canvassed in this House yesterday. And I'm not going to bore this House by going through the debate that was entertained here yesterday. And I think the matter was well canvassed, as was mostly robustly debated. And much as I was not here, because I couldn't be here, I looked at the TV reports and I saw how the EFF argued the case and how a number of other parties argued the case. What should be said is that indeed, the issue of land is still very central in the minds of many of our people. There is land hunger in our country, and from the ANC point of view, this is a matter that is being addressed robustly. The various programs that we've got in place are addressing this matter, including policies that we have been implementing ever since 1994. And we are a political party that subscribes to the rule of law. Right now, we have a constitution that prescribes that land should be dealt with in a particular way. The African National Congress is pursuing to implement what is set out in our constitution because we subscribe to the rule of law. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, what is very clear is that the 3,500 Rand minimum wage that we're introducing will certainly not be enough to address the inequality in our society today. Now, Mr. Deputy President, for hundreds of years, some of our employees have been earning minimum wage, including farm workers who have been exploited. Now, this being the first step in the direction of trying to address inequality, would you also consider at some stage very soon to also introduce beneficiation, especially for farm workers and things, so that they enjoy housing, they enjoy pension funds, they enjoy medical aid by these employers who have exploited them for such a very long period of time? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
I agree that the 3,500 is a type of wage that is not going to wipe out poverty in our country. And in fact, in arriving at this figure, we had to have a very good balance. The issue that faced us and that faced the panel that advised us was whether to peg it so high, maybe 8,000, 12,000, and they knew, and we also knew, that if we pegged it high, many people would lose jobs. But at the same time, we knew that if we pegged it far lower than the 3,000, the 20 Rand an hour, it would not have an impact. So the 20 Rand an hour was the balance that could be achieved and found at this point in time. And I repeat, 3,500 or 20 Rand an hour is not a living wage, but everyone has recognized it as a very good start towards addressing the issue of income inequality in our country. And admittedly, a number of people, as I said, in our country are earning way below that right now. You will not believe that our research told us that even workers who are involved in logistics in the urban area are earning as little as 6 Rand an hour. So there are still many people whose income right now is still way, way below where this 20 Rand an hour is. So the 20 Rand an hour is beginning to resonate with a number of people, even those people who dismissed it are beginning to see that it is a start and it builds a foundation upon which we can finally end up with a highly paid working population in our country. Coming to the issue of beneficiation, particularly for farm workers, as you call it, and clearly we want to get to the point where farm workers earn a decent wage, and in fact they should earn a living wage. They should be able to have medical aid. They should be able to have all the benefits that working people in other sectors enjoy. Now, coming to farm workers, you will of course be aware of some of the programs and pilot programs that the Minister Gugile Nkwinti has embarked upon, where he is now converting, he's reached agreement with a number of farmers to convert workers just from being mere farm workers to being partners in a number of farming operations. When it started, a number of people opposed this. More and more farmers are now embracing this, and this is spreading, and it will soon spread like a wildfire. What it will end up with is that we will have workers who work on the farms being treated with dignity, who, even if they have lost their jobs, will not be railroaded out of the farms where it still currently happens, where they will be paid decent wages and where their conditions of employment will be a lot better than what they are now. And with the national minimum wage, Honorable Member, we are on a roll. We are on a roll to improving the conditions of employment as well as income of many workers in the South African economy. And we need to embrace this and make sure that it happens and it is fully implemented. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Ollis.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, we're all concerned when we see the plight of poor people sitting on the side of the road, people who are struggling. But twice during the December question session here in the House, you stated that there will be job losses as a result of the imposition of the national minimum wage, and you undertook to engage with NEDLAC on practical measures to limit those job losses, other than the farming sector and the domestic work sector, which we already know about. Subsequently, NEDLAC has accepted the national minimum wage proposals, and this leads me to ask you, could you tell us what practical measures you have agreed at NEDLAC to limit or significantly reduce the job losses when the national minimum wage is implemented?
The Honorable Deputy President.
The panel that advised the social partners, the Committee of Principals, has been engaged to look more closely at this matter. Initially, they did say to us, yes, there may well be job losses, but the information at hand is not definitive, and they looked at a number of international studies as well. The World Bank and a number of others did say, yes, sometimes the issue of job losses is exaggerated, and sometimes it does not eventuate as it has been supposed. And we've asked them to look at this matter very closely and come back to us and tell us what the eventualities could well be. Now, in our discussions, we've also looked at a number of proposals on what can be done to mitigate against job losses. One of those, of course, is exactly what I said earlier, is that businesses can come forward and apply for an exemption. If a business is not able to pay the minimum wage, there is going to be an allowance, no, rather an allowance for them to come forward and say, we are not able to pay this, and they will be granted an exemption, but they will have to outline precisely what their difficulties are. So that is the first one. And we are also going to look at vulnerable sectors of the economy where incentives could well be paid as well. We're also going to look at whether there can be tax breaks for some of those type of employers. And we are also going to look at a number of other measures and interventions. And let me just assure members that we are not flying into this blind. We are not flying into this blind. We are taking fairly calculated positions to make sure that we do mitigate against job losses. And here is the real issue. The real issue that faced us was whether we continue to countenance income inequality or we do something that is quite revolutionary. We opted for a revolutionary stance, but at the same time we said, to the extent that there will be job losses, we are going to put in place a number of measures. One of those important ones being getting an exemption that will last for a year, and if after a year your business still cannot afford it, you are allowed and entitled to come back and say, this is how my business is operating. So vulnerable businesses, businesses that are in difficulties, are going to be able to come forward. What we want to prevent in the end is mass job losses. And with this agreement amongst the parties, we are certain that we are going to be able to mitigate against massive job losses. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 2, asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, the deployment of the SANDF is solely within the purview of the President of the Republic of South Africa in his capacity as the head of the executive and also in his capacity as the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force. Now, Section 4 of the Powers and Privileges Act sets out when security forces may be deployed, and in that regard, decisions of this nature are often communicated by one branch of the state to another, and in doing so, they are not communicated through the leader of government business, nor is there any requirement in law or in the rules of Parliament that they should be so communicated. This year, as in previous years, the issue of the deployment of the SANDF personnel was transmitted by letter from the President to the presiding officers, and as a result, the leader of government business does not get involved in such matters. The letters historically include the reason for their deployment, the numbers of officers that are deployed, and the period for which they are deployed. And these letters, Madam Speaker, are a matter of public record. They are out there in the public. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mishwe. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, we don't normally write the first person, so I missed out on the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Maimane.
I think, fellow South Africans, we can all agree, Deputy President, the answer you've just given to say you have no role in that is actually a key departure from Section 91(4) of the Constitution that enjoins you as leader of government business that you are directly responsible for the interaction between the executive and this particular parliament. I think furthermore, there's a critical issue of the fact that we've seen the chaos that has been ensuing in the State of the Nation addresses that have taken place. We now have a president who has violated the Constitution. We have a speaker who has violated the Constitution. So, Deputy President, what I would like to know, Speaker, sorry, I can't speak.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Please allow the honorable leader of the opposition to finish. Honorable members, may I appeal that you allow the honorable leader of the opposition to finish? Please proceed, Honorable Maimane.
Thank you. So, Deputy President, every year we're seeing the increase of the use of police, the security agency, and now the army coming to Sona to intimidate members of parliament, members of the media, and ordinary South Africans. So I'd like to ask, I think you and I can agree, this should remain the people's parliament, not the executive's parliament. And in the light of that, Deputy President, in your role as leader of government business, as I've outlined, what steps will you take to ensure that A, the executive never again abuses state security apparatus to intimidate members of parliament and the media, and that parliament in fact returns to its place as a separate and an independent arm of government? Or do you in fact support the actions of the executive and of the president? I thank you, Judge.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that where I agree with the leader of the opposition is that when he does speak and pose this question, he should be given an opportunity to do so in peace and without much disturbance. That I agree with him on. And I'm sure he will agree with me that as the leader of the opposition, he will be able to hold back his own members. When some of us speak, they shout and howl at the back there. I hope he will be able to do so. Now, I will easily stand here and champion his case for decorum and for quiet, as you have urged members to do. Coming back to the question that you've raised, Honorable Maimane, as I recall, the issues that you are raising now are the central subject of a case that has been launched against 6 respondents by the Democratic Alliance, case number 2526/17. In the papers, some of your prayers are to the court that the court should rule and declare that the use of the SANDF is unconstitutional, and it must declare that the Constitution was violated. It must also declare that the Powers and Privileges Immunities Act was also violated. And it must also declare that the various parties that are cited, being the President, the Speaker, the Chair of the National Council of Provinces, the Minister of Police, the Minister of Defense, all did all these deeds, and these are members of the executive. Now, please allow me not to enter this space which you have now taken to an independent tribunal in our country. Let this tribunal address these issues, because once that tribunal has ruled on these matters, I will then be able to answer the question that you have raised, because the tribunal that you have gone to will be able to give us definitive answers. So I want to leave it there, and I think you've gone to the best tribunal, to the High Court, to give you a ruling on this. And I think let us allow that to happen, and I'm sure the High Court will be ruling on this fairly soon, and I'm sure you'll be excited if you win this case. So that's where I want to leave it. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. The leader of government business was a member of this House during the first democratic parliament. He knows very well that security measures during State of the Nation addresses back then did not include thousands of SAPS officers and hundreds of armed soldiers on and around these precincts. If indeed he was not informed about the presence of hundreds of armed soldiers who were deployed during SONA. What was his first reaction when he saw them? Because during apartheid, they were not seen on the premises. And secondly, is there somebody who's suffering from paranoia? And if that is the case, we want to know who is fearful and whose life is being threatened. Because to our knowledge, the president is not threatened, and if he's indeed threatened, I would want to know what has he done that would cause the people of South Africa to go after him. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Since 1994, yes, indeed, I have observed the presence of the police, South African Police Service members. I have also observed SANDF members in Cape Town, in the various streets, lining up the streets, and yes, a number of them have been armed with guns, which is the normal thing with a soldier. They go around armed, and I've never thought that they were threatening. I've always seen them as aligning the streets. When it's on a SONA day, they align the streets, just as members of Parliament also strut along the streets and the carpets and well-clothed and all that. Looking really absolutely lovely. I saw you this year, Honorable Michel, also looking really outstanding. And I always observe all this. And I never thought, quite honestly, I never thought that the members of the SANDF and the police are threatening. Yes, they are often here in numbers, and I've often seen many of them, but they are always on ceremonial type of guard. Just guarding and being there and just really showing a clear demonstration of the state and being there in their uniforms in a ceremonial fashion. So I've never thought that they were there to protect anyone, to guard anyone, to harm anyone. That I have never observed. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in light of the fact that this matter has come up with a lot of concerns and a bit of tensions, and also in light of the fact that this matter is also linked with the protection services that enter the House to eject members, and of course the issue of the protection services and also the section of arms is covered under Rules 70, 71, 72 and 73 of our rules book. Would you, as the leader of government business, deem it fit that the meetings that were held, led by yourself and the presiding officers and also party reps, be resuscitated in order to ensure that such concerns are dealt with once and for all? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, I think we once held really good meetings which we thought would help in addressing quite a number of challenges that we faced. And it was a sad pity that in the course of those meetings, some good faith was broken. Good faith was broken, and that led to the breakdown of that whole process. And it is a process which I, on the one hand, as leader of government business, we were going to follow up with the Speaker, becoming part of that process, as well as the Chair of the National Council of Provinces, and the leaders of political parties. When we initially met, I thought we were onto something that was really good, which would have served this Parliament extremely well. But no sooner than we had started, than the good faith that we thought we were establishing and cementing was broken. And that led to the complete breakdown of that whole process. If what you are saying is that we should reconsider this matter, I know that the Speaker and the National Council of Provinces often hold meetings with political parties. We can look into that and see whether it does become an avenue or an option that we can work on. But what I do know is that the Speaker currently meets with the leaders of political parties, and that, to my information, that goes very well. But I'm glad you have raised that, because that takes me back down memory lane, but that also takes me down a rather painful moment when good faith was broken and the whole thing just collapsed. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mabika.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, if the number of soldiers that was deployed here can be deployed to protect one individual that is well protected, the President, what then stops the government from sending the troops to go and to the border of Mozambique and South Africa to stop the vehicles that are stolen from unprotected and innocent people from around Jozini, Umkanyagude, that is happening every day?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The member is raising a law and order matter which has to do with criminal investigation and also has to do with how we secure our borders, and that is a matter which the various line ministers deal with on an ongoing basis. And let me say up front that the presence here of members of the SANDF were not here to protect any one individual. They were here to conduct their own ceremonial duties on the opening of Parliament. Now,
Order, honorable members.
Madam Speaker, I'm waiting for that magical moment which I advocated for when the leader of the opposition spoke. And now that I have that magical moment, we may differ on this, and it is not wrong to differ. But the good thing is that the Democratic Alliance has taken this matter to court. And let us allow the courts of our country to make a determination on this matter, so that we stop, differing on every point, because I am outlining precisely what I believe they were deployed here for, and they have a different view, and the view is that they were here to protect one person. And of course we differ with that. And now that we differ, let us allow the courts to make a determination on this matter. And once the courts have made a determination, we will know what the truth is. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 3, asked by the Honorable Shivambu. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, on the question of whether I, as the leader of government business, received a submission from the said individual on the Financial Intelligence Center Amendment Bill, the answer is no. I did not receive such a submission. I would, however, like to make use of this opportunity to commend all parties in this House for the unanimous adoption yesterday of the amended bill. I thought we did a really good job to amend the bill. The legislation that we voted on yesterday will significantly strengthen our ability to tackle money laundering and the financing of terrorism and bring South Africa in line with international standards. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shivambu.
Thank you, Speaker. I don't know what the table staff did with this question, because the way it appears on this is not what we had asked. The question we had asked is that during the submissions to the Standing Committee on Finance, a member of the public came to say that if this bill is passed and it's signed into law, the ANC is going to be broke, basically intimating that the ANC benefits from the lack of legislation that seeks to combat money laundering and financing of terrorist activities. And no member of the ANC in that committee objected to that. He said that, look, if this bill goes on, the ANC is going to be broke. And he identified himself as a professional who represents the ANC. His name is Jimmy Manyi, and he argued strongly that the ANC is going to be broke if this bill is passed. So we were asking you that you are a leader of government business, you are a deputy president of the ANC. Is that the case that the ANC is linked to money laundering and financing of terrorist activities to finance its programs? Because that is what was intimated by a Mkovu of the group that's called Jimmy Man.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, we did not get the question as couched in that way, Honorable Shivambu. Now, if the question had been couched in that way to us, clearly we would have said that the ANC does not rely on laundered money. The ANC, for its finances, does not rely on money that is filtered into the country through money laundering or the financing of terrorist activities. We abhor money laundering. We are totally against money laundering and money that is meant to finance terrorism. It is for that reason that we support this bill, and we also applaud everyone who voted in favor of this. Now, if what you are saying is true, that this was said by Mr. Jimmy Manyi, I don't know what he's talking about, and clearly he is not talking for the African National Congress that I lead, that I know.
The Honorable Mainir.
Deputy President, while we're on the question of Mr. Jimmy Manyi, who, as my colleague pointed out, strongly opposed this bill, do you think it's right that it is now, given the fact that it is now being revealed that Mr. Jimmy Manyi received 840,000 rand from parastatals, including 440,000 rand paid by the now, and I use this hesitantly, Honourable Brian Molefe, who at the time was the chief executive of ESCOM, to the Progressive Professionals Forum. Do you think that is right?
The Honorable Deputy President.
With the greatest respect, Honorable Speaker, I have no knowledge of all this, and if I did have any knowledge, possibly I would be able to prefer a view, but I have no knowledge of that. I have no knowledge of the doings of Mr. Jimmy Manyi in funding whoever or being funded by whoever. So I'm afraid I'm unable to assist you, much as I would really like to assist you and give you maximum assistance on anything you would ask. On this one, you will have to forgive me. I have no knowledge. I'm sorry about that.
The Honorable Shengwa. Order.
Honorable Deputy President, the bill, of course, had to come back because the President cited a very interesting but, baseless concern, which even legal experts which have been consulted said that it was really a waste of time for the bill to come back. Now, what is evident is that there's a lack of political will in the presidency to sign this bill into law. And so whilst you have congratulated the House for all of us voting for it yesterday, are you prepared in this House now to give us a surety that the bill will be signed as a matter of urgency, given the fact that corruption is one of the greatest threats to our democracy, and that this bill seeks to safeguard us from that corruption? And so, are you prepared to ensure, to push and champion the signing of this bill on the basis of your congratulatory message? Because that on its own is baseless. It's funny signing over sikhathele ubugebengu.
Honorable Deputy President.
Nami ngilapho nawe ukuthi nami ngifuna ukuthi isayiniwe. Kodwa ke umsebenzi womongameli lo. Umsebenzi womongameli, only the president can assent to bills in terms of one of his constitutional duties, and indeed you're urging him to sign the bill, and indeed many other people urging him to sign the bill, will be some of the considerations that he keeps in mind, that the bill must be signed, and indeed he will be getting advice from a number of people. So let us leave it to the president as our executive leader, that he should apply his mind to this bill now that it is going to come back to him, and all of us hope that he is going to be able to sign the bill, as he has to sign a number of other bills that are often brought before him. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Buthelezi of the ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President. Now that we are done with conspiracy theories, can we then come back to the thing that we did yesterday? Now that we have passed the FICA Amendment Bill, do you think, Honorable President, that this will enhance business confidence in our economy, which is critical for fixed investment by the private sector, economic growth, and of course, employment creation? And can you please tell us why would you think so, if you agree with me? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy
Honorable
President.
Speaker, just quickly, I think Parliament must note that
No, Honorable
the Honorable
Shibambu.
Speaker who spoke now
Honorable
referred to
Shibambu.
the Deputy President as Honorable President.
Honorable
Is
Shibambu,
that what
please
is
take your
making?
seat.
So wanted to clarify what
Please take your seat, Honorable
Has Mr.
Shibambu.
changed his mind now?
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My answer to Honorable Junior Buthelezi, or Buthelezi Junior, I think the signing of this bill is going to enhance our stature in the international investment community. They will see that we are deadly serious against corruption and money laundering. As we all know, we operate in a globalized community, and by and large, on many things that we do, we've got to be able to do what is reasonable and proper that other countries do. And this happens to be one of those. We don't necessarily willy-nilly have to do everything that other countries do, but this is one of those, because it is against money laundering and also supporting terrorists financially. Now, what will this do in terms of enhancing our position when it comes to investment? Investors will look at our country and see that we are equal comparators with many other countries that they invest in, and it is going to be one of those things where they mark us correctly and say, South Africa, having signed this bill, means that it is serious about corruption and it is open for business and investment. And I think it will enhance our chances, because, answering your question directly, Honorable Buthelezi, investors want to invest in countries that subscribe to certain values. They want to invest in countries that they know have a moral compass. And by doing so, we will be demonstrating to the world that indeed, as South Africans, we do have a moral compass. We are people of integrity, and that we abhor corruption, and we are totally against things like money laundering and supporting terrorist activities. And that in itself is going to make us a blue chip investment destination. And I'm sure that those who are serious about investments will be able to bring their investments our way. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 4, asked by the Honorable J.L. Fabs, the Honorable Deputy President.
South Africa was represented, and may I say well represented, at the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. It was represented by government, by business, by labor, by people from the NGO sector, as well represented by the media from our country. And working together as what we call Team South Africa, this group was extremely effective in communicating a coherent message, particularly around the progress that we are making as a country in a number of areas. This includes on how we are implementing economic transformation and our own reform agenda, on how we are making progress towards working to inclusive growth, as well as finding ways in which we can increase employment, on how also we are restoring investor confidence in our economy, and how we are achieving a more supportive business environment. But we also were able to outline to them the measures that we are taking in as far as refining government spending and how we are seeking to make our spending efficient. In each of these cases, Team South Africa was able to provide practical examples of where progress has been achieved and to highlight where further work needs to be done. And I must tell you that it was quite heartwarming to see how South Africans from all hues of life were able to speak from one hymn sheet or sing from one hymn sheet and communicate a single message about our country. We were united in purpose, united in delivering a clear message to the world. And this message was well received by many people with whom we interface collectively and individually. There is a great deal of goodwill towards our country and a genuine desire from both government and business leaders to see the country succeeding, particularly in overcoming some of the challenges that we face both economically as well as at the social level. And Madam Speaker, among the issues that dominated this year's deliberations is the problem of the increasing polarization between rich and poor, which is exacerbated by the slowing down of the growth of the middle class as the mainstay of economic activity and prosperity. There was broad agreement among the various global economic leaders at the World Economic Forum that there needs to be a concerted global effort to promote inclusive growth, which brings the millions of poor and unemployed into the productive and beneficial economic activity. And amongst the many other things that were addressed were the issue of the Industrial Revolution and the impact that the Industrial Revolution is going to have on a number of economies and particularly working people in our countries. And leaders also discussed the need to strengthen systems for global collaboration. And in this regard, it was a joy to listen to President Xi Jinping of China addressing the world leaders on the issue of globalization and on how countries can benefit from globalization and how weak nations and people who are in poverty need to be assisted to deal with the issues of globalization. So South Africa's participation there was a great participation. We came out of there having made good friends, but also having positioned our country well as an investment destination. May I add, as I end, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, that I know that a number of people did sign some deals. They did meet a number of investors and business partners. And so, all in all, those few days that were spent in Davos were good days, much as it was cold. It did come back. South Africa team came back having delivered a really good message about our country. And we can be proud of those people who went there. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Fabs.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and Honourable Deputy President, for your comprehensive response, which acknowledges the increasing polarisation between the rich and the poor, and also the profound impact of the fourth industrial revolution, which it is likely to have on our country's workplace, employment, and skills development profiles. Recognising that innovation and technology upgrading are fundamental to industrial development, especially in South Africa, where most enterprises innovate by importing capital equipment rather than conducting research or buying from local institutions. Therefore, please, Deputy President, can you share with this House how in this highly competitive global environment, new technologies are playing and can continue to play a crucial role in maintaining and even improving South Africa's competitiveness, especially in sectors such as manufacturing and mining value chains, which can absorb larger numbers of skilled, unskilled, or semi-skilled workers? I thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Fabs. I had the honour and the privilege to participate in a sectional discussion at the World Economic Forum on technology, on science and technology. And I also had the opportunity to share with leaders in Africa and globally about the work that our country is doing in the space of science and technology. And I was able to inform them the various things we're doing, research and development, with a very limited budget that the Minister of Science and Technology has. But I was overjoyed to know that all those people that I met there knew our Minister of Science and Technology and articulated great respect for her and her participation in various forums in the world that deal with science and technology. They were able to heap praise on us, on the advances that we are making, the square array development where they say, you are not only leading South Africa in this regard, you are leading Africa into the world on a scientific and technological basis. Now, that to me was a real joy. And if there ever was a moment when one could have felt so proud of our country, that was the time when a developing economy that we are was recognized for being really up there with more developed economies when it comes to science and technology. And when we were able to tell them that we are utilizing that science and technology into a number of fields, not only in manufacturing, but also in health, and in a number of other areas, mining and farming as well. So one was able, Madam Speaker, to share with people from all over the world precisely the work that we are doing here in South Africa. We're able to also outline to them how our young people are excelling in a number of fields and how they are also winning awards. So that day was a great day for South Africa when we regaled the world about the achievements that we have amassed. And clearly, there is much more that still needs to be done. People who love science and technology, like myself and the minister, would like to see her budget growing more and more so that we can excel when it comes to science and technology, because we are using our science and technological prowess for good effect, for manufacturing, for health, mining, and a number of other related areas. So we are great when it comes to science and technology, and I'd like all of us to recognize how great we are and how much greater we can be as a country. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Macpherson.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, on Monday night, your alliance partner, the SACP, through its Deputy General Secretary, described your government's plan of radical economic transformation as nothing but hot air. And your minister, Blade Nzimande, said it was focused on advancing narrow black elite accumulation and that radical is only a rhetorical statement. By your own admission, Deputy President, your government is at war with itself. As a presidential contender and leader of the ANC and government's civil war against the president, your president, how credible is your claim of cohesiveness in Team SA's message at Davos, really?
The Honorable Deputy President.
I don't know, maybe I should say it in Venda. Because if I say it in Venda, maybe you will understand a little bit more. But the only disadvantage is that I might have to put you through some classes of Venda so that you can fully understand precisely what I was saying. What I was saying to you is that the message that we articulated in Davos as South Africa team, or Team South Africa, wearing our colorful scarves, clearly distinguishing ourselves from any other group. And you should really see this. When we go to Davos, we all wear our colorful scarf, and there's no other country that has claimed that space like we have. And you know what? 1 year I'd like to go with you so that you can join us and wear that scarf and realize that wearing that scarf on itself just begins to make your message cohesive. It just begins to enable you to articulate a clear, positive message about South Africa. Now, that's what we had gone to do. We had not gone to Davos to go and articulate any other message. What we were selling was your South Africa, our country, our people. That's what we were selling. We were not selling a narrow vision of a particular party. We were selling a vision of all of us. That's what we were doing in Davos. And I'd like you to respect that. Ngauri haezi roya Davos, ria Davos urengisa shango lashu. Ori vatu basi pfesese zwavudi, ori rine vatu va fano Afrika Chipembe. Rofarana hani, riko shumisana hani, naone riko ya pandanga ndira ifio. Ariko ita hezi zabu daba, zinofana na hezi zinena kwamba ngazo. Requaitors to Zauri, Riveri Seshango la Ashupanda. Now I've said it in Venda, I'm sure you understand it better. Thank you.
Honorable members, I must report that the names that followed, I just happen to remember, Honorable Macpherson, have been wiped off. So there's somebody missing who came before the one that I'm, Honorable Esterhazen. Yes. cha ngiyazi ukuthi ukhona Matthias kodwa usezantsi. Olandelayo kuzoba Honorable Dudley. Honorable Esterhazy.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President, you said in your presentation in Davos that South Africa is open for business and emphasized our foreign policy as the same. You just spoke about moral standards in this country, with socio-economic and political stability playing a major role and deciding factor as to where foreign investment is directed. Don't you agree then that a country's foreign policy should reflect its own domestic policy? My question, sir, how can you sell South Africa as an open and a credible leader in Africa when we can't even guarantee the physical safety of foreigners and their property, given the perennial widespread violent incident of xenophobia on this border? And you might say that this is law and order as well, but this still reflects the image of government towards foreign nationals to the world. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we can all agree that the events and the incidents of the past few days are rather sad, and these are incidents that we should not gloat about. But what is clear is that South Africans are not xenophobic. We are a people who are not xenophobic. We don't hate foreigners. In fact, we've opened our arms forever and in a day to people from other countries, just like they opened their arms to us when we were pushed into exile. So we have opened our arms to them, and where there's been criminal activity, we are saying that the police must investigate that, and it's not saying that foreigners are criminals and they get involved in all manner of criminal activity. So we will continue as a government wanting to protect the lives, the property, and the interests of people from other nations, just as we expect them, foreign governments, to protect the lives, the property, and the interests of South Africans who are in other countries. So what they expect of us, we will also do to their own nationals. And the South African government has been very clear on this matter from the beginning. We as a government have been in the forefront of preaching an anti-xenophobic message. We've been in the forefront of advocating the protection of foreign nationals, and that those foreign nationals who are involved in criminal activity should be dealt with in accordance with our laws. And we call on our people not to take the law into their own hands and attack people from other countries. They must allow our police services, our security forces to deal with the matter. We've got robust laws that are able to deal with people who get involved in criminal activity. But South Africa is a home for all, and it is a home for all who live in it. So it was declared in our Freedom Charter. And this government lives up to what has been set out in our Freedom Charter, because it anticipated that, yes, we should become a home for all people who live here, be they from other nations or be they South African born. This is our home as much as it is their home as well. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Dudley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs study notes the fourth industrial revolution now underway, characterized by fast-paced technological progress, combined with other socio-economic and demographic changes, could mean a net loss of over 5 million jobs in 15 major developed and emerging economies, including South Africa. Is government prioritizing work needed to identify and adapt skills and education training to ensure that people who are becoming redundant in their jobs due to technology takeover will find themselves suitably prepared in new roles, partnering with the robotic workforce of the not-too-distant future? Are our youth being adequately prepared for the reality of the workspace that they will enter pretty soon? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It was quite refreshing for me to sit in a meeting in Davos with government and business leaders and to listen to a leader of a global business talking about the impact of the Industrial Fourth Revolution. When he said that what concerns him more than being a keen participator in the Fourth Industrial Revolution was the impact it is going to have on jobs and on ordinary people. And he was advocating that as we push ahead with this Industrial Fourth Revolution, we should at the same time put in place measures that are going to protect people who are going to lose their jobs, to lose their livelihood as a result of implementing the Industrial Fourth Revolution. And he was quite passionate about it. And he started suggesting a number of measures such as re-education of people, reskilling, and making sure that they are familiarized with the new era that is going to be given rise to by this new revolution that is coming. And let me say that this matter is being given attention in government. We are giving this matter close attention through our various training programs to ensure that as technology spreads and as technological advancement happens to improve the lives of ordinary people, at the same time we should not allow technological advancement to get people out of their jobs or to get to a point where they will not have other alternative jobs. So as we improve, we must make sure that we have some safety net of training nature and a number of others to make sure that they do get on with their lives with new skills, with new experiences, and also they must be able to get new life opportunities. So that's what we are working on, and I'm sure that giving attention to all this will yield positive results. Let me also say as I conclude that the trade union movement is also actively involved in these types of discussions because they are concerned about their members losing their jobs. So a combination of business, government, and labor in this is going to lead to really good benefits that will make sure that the Industrial Revolution, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, does not waylay people and lead to job losses. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 5, asked by the Honorable Hlengwa. The Honorable the Deputy President.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Matiase, what's the issue?
Well, I pressed the button here.
Yes, as I said, your name was lower down than the other names.
However,
and we have taken 4 supplementary questions, and that's the cutoff.
My question was about this specific question. Madam.
No, Honorable Matiase, please take your seat. And can we go on to the question of Honorable Hlengwa and ask the Honorable Deputy President to answer?
Madam Speaker, the Executive Code, Ethics Code rather, requires that where a member of the Executive holds any financial or business interest which may give rise to a conflict of interest in the performance of that member's functions, the member must either dispose of such interest or place the administration of the interest under the control of an independent and or professional person or agency. And in order to comply with the Ethics Code, in November 2014, I disposed of my shareholding in the Shanduka Group, an investment holding which held a number of assets in regulated sectors of our economy. I advised the Secretary of the Cabinet accordingly and released a media statement outlining the actions that I have taken in this regard. And with regards to my assumption of the responsibilities that I was given by the President, particularly with respect to the South African Airways, I did not declare any possible conflict of interest because there was no conflict of interest to declare. I have no business dealings with SAA or any other state-owned company. I have declared all my assets with the Cabinet Secretary and Parliament as it is required by law. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Hlengwa.
Ngiyathokoza Mhlonishwa Somlomo. Mhlonishwa Sekela Mengameli. Thank you for your response. At the outset, let me say there's nothing I hate more than fake news, particularly fake news that grinds against the national interest. Now, the allegations which the question is based on were made by the Youth League. And so I'm putting it to you, Honorable Deputy President. Are you prepared to call out these lies and these fake news which seek to threaten, in particular, state-owned entities which are very fragile at this point in time? And if such allegations are made about them, could very well cause instability in those sectors and it could result in job losses. Secondly, credit rating agencies have cited political instability as a major concern moving forward. And such kind of conduct will result in them not giving us favorable ratings. So I'm putting it to Honorable Deputy President an opportunity now to call out the Youth League and to condemn this kind of behavior which seeks to threaten the national interest, for such lies to be peddled against yourself in the main, but most importantly, the national interest and the threat to jobs and the state-owned entities which are being brought into the mud which they do not belong to. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Hlengwa. I am in the course of engaging the ANC Youth League on this matter. We are in the process of engaging each other on this. I, having told them that the matter that they raised publicly was a lie, it was a fabrication, and as you say, fake news, because there is no truth in the fact that I am conducting business with SAA or any other company. And I've said it very clearly. I did not leave business to come into government service, to come and conduct fraudulent business in government. I did not do so. And I hold the view that if you want to make money in business. Do not come and make money dealing with government entities. That's the view that I hold. So I did not leave business where, I was involved in business. I'm a failed businessman now. I did not do that to come and try and loot the state and loot state-owned enterprises. That I did not do, and I will never do so. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Lees.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, ngizocela nje into eyodwa kuwe ukuthi ungaphenduli ngesibhende. Mawuthanda isiZulu ungaphendula ngaso. Madam Speaker, Deputy President, SAA has run at a loss of some 13.76 billion since Ms. Dudu Mnyeni was appointed as the board chair. Ms. Mnyeni's intervention over the Airbus deal resulted in Finance Minister Nana being fired and replaced with Honourable Now You See Him, Now You Don't, Van Rooyen. Ms. Mnyeni has been found by the CIPC to have contravened 2 sections of the Companies Act. Ms. Mnyeni last Saturday apparently spent the night in the presidential suite at the luxury Oyster Box Hotel at a cost of 50,000 rand. Would the Deputy President please tell us why he believes that the reappointment of Ms. Dudu Mnyeni as the SAA board chair last year was not irrational? Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we should be looking at ufuna ngiyiphendule ngesizulu. We should be looking at the big picture here. And the big picture is that the good development, which is part of our SOE reform program, is that the SAA board has been reconstructed. We have new board members on that board who are working together with Ms. Dudu Myeni, and they are trying against very, very difficult odds to reposition SAA. SAA is a national asset, and all we should ever do, I want you to listen, all we should ever do is to wish that board the greatest of luck, because we've got really outstanding South Africans on that board who are working day and night, supporting the management team, and they are executing a new strategy to reposition SAA. Now, admittedly, they are working in a very difficult industry, which is the airline industry. It is one of the very challenging and very difficult industries where you either make money or you lose money, depending on a whole number of variable factors, and some of those being the fuel costs and everything else. So let us spend more time wishing them luck and egging them on and hoping and wishing that they do succeed in everything that they do. And if you can say a prayer, for SAA, say a prayer. Uyithandazele SAA ukuthi ikwazi ukuqhubeka kahle iphumelele ngalendlela esifuna ukuthi iphumelele ngayo. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, Deputy President. Now that your name has been cleared by your good self here today, and given the fact that SAA has a problem of some of the men who fly aeroplanes being lured by China, being offered over 3.2 million per annum as against what they get in South Africa, what steps are you going to take now that you've been cleared to make sure that our pilots remain stable, that our pilots do not fleece SAA by making exorbitant demands for themselves, their wives, as well as their children, to fly all over the world free of charge, because that creates a big hole in the fiscus of that national carrier. What steps then are you going to take to make sure that this comes to a screeching stop? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Filtane. One of the great things that we are succeeding in our country is not only to retain a number of really outstanding pilots of, if you like, the older generation, but it is how we are attracting young black South Africans into the profession of being pilots. And I've had the joy of meeting quite a number of them. And I'll tell you a very good story. I was in an aeroplane and I was flown from Kimberley. It was a commercial flight by a young South African girl from New Brighton in Port Elizabeth. Her name is Oyama Malotane. She's 24 years old. It was stormy weather. They said they invited me to come into the cockpit, and her chief pilot said, I want you to see how this young woman, 24 years old, from a township, is now able to fly a plane with 300 passengers. And it was the most unbelievable flight because stormy, it was raining, and this young woman took that plane off from Kimberley, went through the stormy skies and landed us in rain and storms in Johannesburg. I was in awe to see this young woman doing precisely that. Now, are there many of them? Are there many of them? There aren't many of them. And what are we seeking to do as government? We're starting a program to do precisely that. The other day, I was also flown. And I hope I won't embarrass Dr. Nzimande by saying this. I was flown by his son in an aeroplane, SAA flight, from Johannesburg to Durban. And he was flying us. And he's a young man. Now, this is the future that beckons us. This is the future that is out there for us on the horizon. And these are the young people that we've got to nurture. We've got to prepare for the future that awaits them. This is how this country is succeeding and is reaching out for greatness. And whilst we are doing both things, trying to keep those who are already in the system so that they can pass their skills on to these others, that is happening. In the Air Force, when we fly, the President and myself fly, we're often flown by young people, young black people who are now flying these very big planes, and they are the pride of our nation. So there is a future, and we are going to make sure that the pilots in our country increase by leaps and bounds, because we need good and loyal pilots who will not go off to work in China and a number of other countries. Thank you for raising this, because you took me down memory lane. You spoke about something that I found very touching, when I see young people being very successful at an intricate and difficult profession like being a pilot. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will come from the Honorable Mukause.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, despite the fact that your office rejected claims made by one of your own, the ANC Youth League, that you own a certain portion in the ComCare, but we are not concerned about that. We still believe, as the EFF, that senior government leaders own shares in most of the institutions. Our concern is the proliferation of business ownership by senior government leaders, and that escalate to their families having influence in the South African government, that of Zuma, the Duduzane Zuma, who's got great influence, and the Guptas. As the leader of the government business in this house, have you ever went as far as engaging your president in those claims? And you ever went that far as engaging the president about the claims made by the deputy president, but the deputy minister of finance of the Guptas having afforded him an opportunity to be the Minister of Finance? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
I think the issue of the ownership of shares has two aspects to it, and I think we do need to understand it. There's the issue of share ownership as part of one's portfolio, say on shares that are traded on the stock exchange, where you can buy shares and sell shares on an ongoing basis in various companies, because they offer a growth that you may not get if you leave your money in the bank. Now, nearly all of us here are shareholders in various companies through our pension funds, because our pension funds buy shares and they sell shares. So we should not then be derogatory against people who may own a listed share here and there, which is listed on the stock exchange, because that's part of their investment management. Then there's the other side of it about owning businesses. Say people in authority owning businesses. And the issue of the code of ethics says that you need to declare your areas of conflict. And this often comes out when a person in a position of authority, like a minister, like myself, if you are going to own shares in a regulated industry or in a company that operates in a regulated area, that gives rise to conflicts. And that is why the Code of Ethics says you should declare it, have it, either you sell it or it's managed by somebody else through a blind trust or whatever. Now, all these are matters that we need to be aware of as members of parliament and as public representatives, and make sure that we are not caught up in all these things as we manage our own investments. Now, I think what we should not be doing is to be derogatory and insulting without any basis or foundation, without any evidence, because we've become now accustomed to people just hurling insults and hurling derogatory statements without having any basis or any foundation. And I think we should base our statements on facts, because facts is what really should regulate everything, and after analyzing the facts, then we should regulate our own reaction and our behavior to particular people. Now, the question that you raised, as I recall, those matters are also now subject of review processes. They were looked into by the public protector, which involved the Deputy Minister of Finance and all that. And those matters are in the process of being handled by another institution. And I would not want to try and second guess that institution. Let that institution be given the opportunity and the right to examine all that, and in the end come out with what the truthful position is. I thank you very much.
We now come to the last question of this afternoon, asked by the Honorable Sheikh Imam, the Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The final report of the Health Ombudsman into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of mentally ill patients in Gauteng concluded that there was a prima facie evidence that certain officials, as well as certain NGOs and some activities within the project, violated the Constitution and contravened the National Health Act and the Mental Health Care Act. The report described several instances of negligent and reckless actions that contributed to the deaths of at least 94 mentally ill patients. The report made several recommendations to hold those responsible to account and to ensure that such a tragedy should never occur again. With regard to the relative powers and functions of the different spheres of government, the report said that there is an urgent need to review the National Health Act of 2003 and the Mental Health Care Act of 2002 with a view to harmonize and to bring alignment to different spheres of government. It also said that the centralization of certain functions and powers of the Mental Health Care Act must revert back to the National Minister of Health. The full breadth of the Ombudsman's recommendations are under consideration, including a review of the National Health Act as well as the Health Care Act. The Minister of Health has already informed this House that he has selected a review panel for this purpose. The Constitution is very clear on the responsibilities of the various spheres of government. It provides, Madam Speaker, for instance, that provinces and their executives are subject to the national government's decisions on policy governing health care. the Constitution empowers national government where necessary to intervene in provincial governments. These are some of the elements of our constitutional architecture that will need to be considered during the course of this review that the Minister has set up a review panel on. We would welcome any suggestions that the Honourable Member, and indeed many other members may have, on this matter to ensure that a tragedy like the Esidimeni one does not happen again. And if there are suggestions that can be brought to bear with regard to how the functions and the competencies at national and provincial level can be so well delineated as to be able to take the effect that they should take to save lives, we would welcome those. And I invite the Honourable Member to come forward and present any such suggestions if he has any. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, we have gone through the recommendations by the Ombudsman and in terms of those patients that may have died in Gauteng. But that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make, Mr. Deputy President. Not only in the case of the issues of those people that have passed on in Gauteng in the health sphere. If you look at it, the limited powers vested in ministers and the national departments, and let me give you another example. If you take Woodstock, for example, in Cape Town, where our people are being removed forcefully to make way for what we call development. Now, the national departments are not able to intervene in this. If you look at the people in Philippi who have just been successful in that court matter, and there are already indications that the city of Cape Town will ignore that court decision. Now the question is, can we as national government make amendments so that more powers are given to ministers and national departments to protect the interest of our people, especially where certain political parties are in control and will abuse their power. And the last example I want to give you, we talk about the limited powers of the Minister of Corporate Governance. If you look at the corruption in the Naisna municipality, which is being protected by either the MEC in the area, I am therefore suggesting, can we make the necessary amendments at some stage to give greater power so we can intervene and protect our people? Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it will be safe to say that having traversed this constitutional journey over a period of a full 22 years, 23 years now, we are entitled to sit back and reflect about the efficacy of our constitutional architecture and see where the Constitution hamstrings us from having effective government that is going to benefit our people. Now, when we negotiated this constitutional dispensation that we have, many people were concerned and they were fearful that we could end up with a situation where national government becomes so powerful and so overbearing that it will override the interests of people at the provincial level and at the regional level and at the local level. Now, the truth of the matter is, many of us have seen how national government seeks and tries everything to advance the interests of all our people in all the four corners of our country. There's nothing suspicious that national government does to undermine any part of our country. And the experiences that we are now having, where the competencies that have been given to provinces some of them prevent national government from taking effective action to the benefit of our people on a uniform or universal basis. This calls for a dialogue that we should have as South Africans. We should sit back and say, does this provision serve us well as South Africans from a constitutional point of view, but more importantly, from a government efficiency point of view? And if it is found that it doesn't serve us as well, then we should be strong enough, man and woman enough, to amend those provisions. Now, when it comes to health, the reason that the Minister of Health has instituted a review panel in this regard is because he has found that it hamstrings him from executing a national mandate of ensuring that all South Africans lead healthy lives. So the reason has come to the fore, and we now need to sit back and have robust, intelligent debates that could lead to an amendment of the architecture that we have. And there should be no suspicions that national government is trying to abrogate unto itself all the powers to the disadvantage of provinces or local government. This, in the end, is what cooperative governance should be all about. Cooperative governance should be how all sectors of government work together to advance the interests of our people. Thank you very much.
The Honorable James.
Madam Speaker, by any objective measure, the Western Cape takes great care of its mentally infirm and its psychiatric patients, including those who are resident at Groote Schuur Estate, I may add. I'd like to ask the Deputy President to check with monitoring and evaluation in your own office. My question to the Deputy President is this: would you, sir, consider replicating the DA model in ANC-governed provinces? I ask this question because why on earth would any rational person escalate functions to the National Department of Health when it cannot spend its NHI budget, when it was found by the Auditor General's office to be heading to further rounds of stockouts, when it's incapable of fixing broken hospitals, when it is incapable of building clinics on scale, and where it tolerates dysfunctional health professional and nursing councils? To prevent death, Deputy President, your party must clearly fix Gauteng Health, as recommended by Dr. Makgoba, and it must fix health in every ANC province. Or, believe you me, the voters will fix it for you come 2019. I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
I missed the reference, Honorable James, when you said Groote Schuur Estate. I know of no Groote Schuur Estate. I know Rondebosch. But anyway, be that as it may, you and I can have a discussion about that. But on the more important issue that you raised, I think you will admit that what has been put out from a policy point of view with regard to the national health insurance is one of the most outstanding policy positions that this country has ever seen with regard to health. When the national health insurance is fully implemented, and we will admit that it is going to go through its baby steps at the moment. There will be hit and misses right now at the moment. Over the weekend, I went to Mpumalanga in the Secunda area, and we opened a brand new clinic, NHI type clinic, which is state of the art, which incorporates the new information system, which is going to be implemented right across the country. And it is a clinic of the future. Now, we are going to be replicating that type of clinic of the future throughout the country. The Minister of Health, when he has an opportunity to answer questions, will be able to outline to you precisely the steps that his Department of Health is taking. Now, when this government took over health, it took over a fragmented health system, a broken health system, a health system that abused our people right throughout the country, and a health system that was so dangerous to the lives of our people. Now, this minister is repairing precisely the mess that was left to this country by the past misrulers of our country. And the health process is now underway. Today, this health department is saving lives. 3.4 million people are on ARVs, and this is being dispensed by this health department. Where in the past, hundreds of thousands of people were dying every year. This health department has made sure that our life expectancy has now ticked up to, I think, about 62 years now. 62 years. Whereas in the past, when this government took over, it was in the 50s. Now, please watch how the improvements are happening in our country. And these improvements, mark my words, are happening countrywide. They are not happening in one province. The challenge that this minister has is a national challenge, is not a limited challenge, a challenge that's limited to one province. The responsibility of making sure that the health of our people is safeguarded is on the shoulders of the National Health Department. And it is doing a reasonably good job under very trying circumstances. The NHI is in pilot stage. It is being implemented. Diseases such as TB are being focused on like a laser. And soon we are going to have World TB Day, and we are going to be announcing precisely what we are going to be doing when it comes to TB. So NHI is underway, whether you like it or not. It is here to stay, and it is going to be implemented. Thank you very much.
The Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Speaker and Deputy President. I think at the very heart of the Esidimeni crisis was a lack of leadership, maladministration and recklessness. And Deputy President, because of these exact same reasons, we are now facing another national crisis, and that's the SASA grant payout crisis. And it will not only affect the lives of 700 vulnerable South Africans, but it will affect the lives of 17 million vulnerable South Africans. In 2014, your government was told by the Constitutional Court that the current contract that you have with CPS and Net1 is unlawful. They gave you until 1 April 2017 to correct this. In full breach of our oath of office, the Minister of Social Development did nothing. And now with a month to go, we've got no plan, absolutely no plan to pay grants, absolutely no plan. So Deputy President, we've seen low leadership on this matter, and I think today, as leader of government and business, you must tell us why we've allowed Minister Dlamini to show a complete disregard for the Constitutional Court. She's in fact gone rogue. We don't know where she is. And we want to know from you, Deputy President, why are we again putting the lives of the most vulnerable citizens at risk? And what will you personally do, Deputy President, to avoid a national grant payout crisis?
Expired. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Member, one of the really good things about our democracy is that it allows us to be able to raise matters of national interest like you are and demonstrate our concern about some of these matters. Now, in doing so, we should also be willing to listen precisely to the steps that are being taken to try and mitigate the challenges and the problems that we have. Now, the SASA matter is being addressed. It is being addressed, and the Armageddon.
Order.
Thank you for your protection, Honorable Speaker. The Armageddon that you are talking about will be avoided. we will make sure that those 17 million people in our country who rely on these payouts, grants, child grants and old age pensions do get their pay. And we are fully aware of the Constitutional Court requirement of having to go back there, and that is underway, that is being addressed. And we're going to make sure that the wheels don't come off. We do indeed address this matter, and when we do, we will be willing and prepared. The minister will be willing and prepared to come back here and address this matter and outline the steps that are being taken and that are going to be taken. So that much I can tell you will happen, and this matter will not be allowed to go to the wall. Thank you very much.
The last follow-up question will come from the Honorable Tembe Kwayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, the Health Ombudsman report details that the removal of patients, mental patients from Life Isidimeni to the 27 centers, whom of which were not properly registered, was comparable to auction cattle market, and that some of the centers were like concentration camp, and that the Gauteng Department of Health was unable to distinguish between the highly specialized non-stop professional care requirements and a business opportunity. The death of the patients has everything to do with the government neglect, which is seen as normal across public health system. What specific actions must be taken to bring those who caused the death of the patients to account? And what is the Deputy President doing to restructure the public health system to ensure it responds to the health needs of our people, the people of South Africa? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I can say without any equivocation that the Minister of Health, ever since this incident occurred, has on a day and night basis been working on this matter. If there is anything that is top of mind to him right now, it is how our country and our people get over this debacle of Esidimeni, and how we ensure that those who are affected are given the support and the care, and how we prevent this matter from ever happening again. But more importantly, on how the recommendations of the health ombudsperson are implemented. And there is a list of things that Professor Malekapuru Makgoba came up with that are currently being implemented. The minister is on a daily basis in the process of doing so, and he briefs me and he briefs the president on an ongoing basis about the steps that they are taking. I have no doubt whatsoever that the care and the scrutiny that the minister is subjecting this whole problem to is going to lead to something that will finally be positive, so that this thing never ever happens again. And he's got his Director General scouring throughout the length and the breadth of the country, making sure that it does not happen in other provinces, and he's got his officials on their toes working on this matter. If there's anything I can assure you on, it is just this, that the minister is giving close attention to this matter. When he does get an opportunity to appear before us here as the National Assembly, he will be able to outline further steps and new steps that he is taking. And if there are challenges, as there will always be in life, if there are challenges, new challenges or whatever, he will be open enough to come and disclose them here and also outline to us the steps that he is taking. So let us give him support. Let us give him all the help that we can, rather than criticize him and browbeat him to the ground, because he's doing a good job under very, very difficult circumstances. Thank you very much.
That concludes questions to the Deputy President. I thank the Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker.
That concludes the business for the day.
Madam Speaker.
The House is
Madam
adjourned.
Speaker. Madam Speaker.
The House is adjourned.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, point of order, please.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker's run away.